What's up, everyone? This is Silver Slayer, and welcome to your daily silver stacking video. Thank you for tuning in. This is hands down the most important video that will be posted on my channel. I really need you to like this video and leave a comment. Watch all the way through because we have a lot to talk about. Liking and commenting helps the video do better. People need to see this. It needs to show up in every single Silver Stacker's recommended playlist. We need this video to get out there because we're talking about something that is highly controversial, but today I'm going to uncover the truth. There's an article from 401k Rollover talking about how the world is years away from running out of silver. Now, this is a very good article. They break down the reality of the situation, the fundamentals. A lot of people, they look too deep or not enough. You have to really step outside of yourself and think about the silver shortage from all different angles. There's so many different things at play, and that's also why it's so controversial. That's why there's so much speculation. And even if you try to dig up even a little bit of information, you're going to see things like this: silver shortage, myth or fact, right? Then you're going to go into supply and demand trends, which could catalyze the price. And then we could even go into last year when the U.S. Mint admits there's a global silver shortage, talking about Perth Mint, Royal Mint, all having to put limited mintage numbers on their coins. Then we can talk about the demand surpassing 1 billion ounces last year. And then we could talk about the next 10 years, how much silver we're going to need more and more and more as we advance in this new digital technological era. You could see how the silver shortage is extremely, extremely complex. And not only just that, silver's a byproduct. Silver's a byproduct. It's found by accident. It's actually extremely rare. Silver's found by accident. But if you look at the gold to silver ratio, it's 8-to-1. Gold is used mainly for coins and bars. So gold, when it's dug up, is going to get recycled for years and years and years, probably around a century. It's going to stay in circulation. But silver, since it's used in laptops and cell phones, that ounce of silver that gets dug up is going to be thrown away within 5-10 years, compared to that ounce of gold that's going to stay in circulation because people melt the jewelry down back into more jewelry or more coins. So we have a situation. I actually did a video before talking about the below ground supply versus the above ground supply versus demand. And by the year 2030, we will literally run out of silver. And I like this article because it was written a while ago and they're still accurate. Look at how incredible this article is. We'll go into a couple other things as well. I just wanted to give a little intro, but also the first ever silver stacking podcast on YouTube is live. The first podcast, including me and Investing with TJ, is posted. It's live. You can go watch it right now. Every Friday, we post a new podcast. It's a really cool format. We'll be doing lots of different things on there. We just recorded the second podcast, and you're really going to like this stuff. We have special guests coming on. We have different segments. It's not just push record and just throw some stuff out there. We have an hour-long podcast full of different topics, different questions he wants to pick my brain with. He'll break down the weekly market analysis. It's very, very good. We have some crazy special guests lined up. I'm excited to announce it's going to be a really big thing, and I think it's a really good thing for the silver stacking community. So, with that said, let's jump into this. So, the world is years away from running out of silver. The global silver market could face a deficit of 126 million ounces by 2020 and could send silver prices surging. Now, it's interesting to see by the year 2020 they talked about this because it's actually 2020 is exactly when, the virus hit. So a lot of things did happen, but the virus was kind of two-faced. It was a double-edged sword. It helped silver, but it also hurt silver at the same time. See, as the market fixates on the price of oil and other real assets, a dramatic scenario is building in the silver market. And I also say the virus kind of was a double-edged sword because the supply disruptions, the boundaries, right? You couldn't distribute silver anywhere, so silver wasn't getting its I guess second life of uses. What I mean by that is this: whether the economy is in good or bad shape, silver benefits. Silver also benefits when the economy is doing good because it's used for all this industrial, technology. So when the economy shut down, lockdown, the silver can't get to where it needs to go, which can also hurt the demand, if you see what I'm saying. Now, not only is demand for silver surging and annual supply growth going nowhere, but much of our available silver is being buried in public landfills. Like I was just saying, as a major component in battery, CD, circuit boards, and other electronics, people are literally throwing their silver in the trash. And this actually reminds me, it was either the Royal Mint or Perth Mint. I'm thinking it's the Royal Mint. I'm like 85% sure it's the Royal Mint. They mentioned how they're gonna start scrapping cell phones and laptops to reclaim some silver. And I think they're just one step ahead of the game, realizing how severe the silver shortage is, and that they should try to get ahead of this thing, because if not, it's gonna bite them in the butt. Especially when you look at premiums. Look at premiums. There's $10, $15 premiums on American Eagles. That's not good. That's not normal. Imagine someone getting into the market and having to pay $40, $45 for an American Eagle when spot price is 24. Do you think they're going to be able to break even? No. Spot price is becoming detached from the actual price of silver, and that's because it is scarce. That is something that people need to really look at. And that gap will only get bigger as silver becomes more scarce. So the silver demand is surging and cannot be stopped, right? And think about in 5, 10 years when the Green New Deal is in full effect, when the entire world goes green with solar panels, when the entire world, every car being produced is an electric vehicle, which silver is heavily into. Think about that. We're going to need so much more silver, so much more, times five. And it's already hard to come up with silver, and we haven't even started that yet. Even as our supply of silver disappears from the market, demand is building every year. And then we could even take this as far as what else? What else? What else would you think about? If I was going to tell you that demand's going to boost, then you would just say, okay, well, we just need to find more of it. Well, there's only so much silver in the Earth's crust. We can only mine so much silver out of the ground, and especially since it's found as a byproduct. So what are we going to do? Where else can we get the silver from? Well, the only other silver on Earth is our silver, right? Us that have been buying the silver for years, or outer space mining, or us. Only other two options, unless you want to try to figure out a way to dig it out of the ground faster, more efficiently. But there's only so much silver in the Earth's crust as well. These three categories make up 95% of silver demand, and they are all growing at a strong rate every year. Demand for all three major uses of silver have increased over the 5 years since 2009, but the real story is in growth in investment and industrial usage. Investors have rushed to silver as central bankers around the world print money to cover spending, destroying the real value of currencies. Demand for silver coins and bars has jumped at an annual pace 17%. So the surge in investor silver demand as a safe haven is nothing new. And then you could even look at Wall Street silver, for example, right? This was years and years before Wall Street silver, but that's the same exact idea. It's not always just the industrial side. It's people like you and I that also are buying the silver. That's also where demand comes from. And as silver becomes more popular, you're going to see more people like you and I wanting to get a slice of the silver pie, but then also the electronics and all that. So everyone is going to be wanting silver from all different angles. But there's not enough of it. Low supply, high demand shoots the price up. And then you could look at the surge in investor demand as a safe haven. And this goes into when the U.S. dollar lost more than half its value from 1971 to 1981. And how did the U.S. dollar lose more than half of its value in 10 years? You want to know why? 1971 is when we got rid of the gold standard. In 10 years, the US dollar lost half of its value, and that's because we got rid of the gold standard. And that price of silver rose fivefold. Demand for silver coins jumped 63% to a record of 65 million ounces in 2008 as the global financial system collapsed. And that's also talking about the credit financial crisis, which 3 years later led to $50 silver. And then that's kind of what they're talking about. And then they're looking at global silver demand going up. And it's funny because 2015, it's only looking around industrials is around 600 million, and nowadays we're looking at it surpassed 1.2 billion ounces this year. So the demand's only going to keep growing. So while the annual pace of growth in silver demand for industrial uses has been more modest, 1.9%, more than 57% of total demand goes to industrial production. Silver is used in the production process of nearly every industry, from electronics to home building and medicine. Demand for silver in photovoltaics for solar energy application is bounding higher. And when I talk about bounding higher, it's going to be big, and it hasn't even started. We're talking about the entire world. It's up 7% in 2014 and up 99% since 2009. Even slower growth in demand amounts to huge additional physical demand, more than 11 million ounces in 2015. This growing industrial need is an urgent demand. While people may be able to substitute their jewelry demand for silver with another metal, and investors may be convinced to sell at higher prices, industrial demand is not negotiable. The growing need for silver in our industrial progress will not be stopped, right? And that's a very good point. What are we going to do if we don't have enough silver to make the Green New Deal go through? What are we going to do when we don't have enough silver to keep making electric vehicles, even though the future of vehicles are all electric? What are we going to do? How are we going to keep making cars if there's not enough silver? It's got to come from somewhere. Yes, the price is going to skyrocket, but have you ever thought about the aftermath of that? Yeah, we all get a pretty penny, but then what? The life still has to play out. That situation still has to play out even after, silver's $500, whatever. What's going to happen? Joe Biden's going to come out and say we can't go through with the Green New Deal because we don't have enough silver. Elon Musk saying he has to shut down Tesla. The world's literally going to burn because that's talking about global warming and and climate change. I mean, it's crazy to think about. I don't think this is going to be something that's going to last forever, but I do think there's going to be a gray area. I feel like we are going to figure out a way to get silver, whether it's space mining, but that's a long ways away, decades down the line. Even though there is an asteroid approaching Earth that has a lot of precious metals, they're going to try to mine by the year 2026. That's a whole separate video I did. But regardless, the silver's got to come from somewhere, and the scariest part about it is people are still undermining it. They're underplaying it, and the reality is within the next couple of years is when we really are going to get hit, and they're going to get smacked in the face realizing how critical silver is. See, if they were preparing, at least we could know there's a shortage, but they could be cushioning, kind of like what the Royal Mint did, starting to scrap cell phones and laptops. They're taking action, the initiative. A lot of people aren't, and they're the ones that are going to get hit, especially with these high premiums, having to pay more. If Elon Musk isn't buying boatloads of silver right now, he's going to be screwed when silver price jumps. Mike Maloney actually wrote a letter to Elon Musk talking about this. He said something along the lines, the next 10 years, silver stays at $25 or whatever, he'll only have to pay like $786 million cost of production or something. But if it goes to $100, it's $3.14 billion, right? That's a game changer. And that's just Elon Musk as the mascot. Think of every other company. So the bigger story in the supply picture, though, is the complete sellout of government holdings. Governments around the world sold 44 million ounces of silver in 2010, supplying more than 4% of the market and keeping the price from rising. Governments have all but sold out of their entire silver holdings, and we've now lost an important source of supply. Government holdings are or have fallen around 75 to 78 million ounces from 316 million ounces in 2005. And also, let me mention a really important point. Look at all the silver that people theoretically own on the COMEX as well. COMEX around what 900 million contracts. Imagine if all those people turned that contract in for physical delivery, which you're allowed to do. You couldn't, because everyone sells those contracts before they turn them in. Every ounce of silver you have in your safe right now, 3 other people, maybe even 5, 10 other people theoretically own that same ounce. But the only person that actually owns that ounce is you, because you're the one that can hold it in your hand. But other people theoretically do own that same ounce, because the amount of silver that's actually in the world is way less than the amount of silver that they're giving credit to people on the COMEX and investors in the physical metal. That's why you never want to invest into the digital. If you can't hold it, you don't own it. A lot of these people think they own it or they theoretically own it, but they don't. The disappearance of supply from government sales and scrap has put the entire weight of silver supply on mine production. And the outlook for mine production is not good, right? That's what I was also talking about. There's very few primary focal silver mines. Most silver is found by accident. They're looking for gold, lead, zinc. If they find some silver, they'll take it, but they're not looking for it. That's scary. As the price of silver and other metals has come down over the past few years, miners have drastically pulled back on the development spending. I also see silver. Um, I think that people will, when they realize how critical silver is, they will learn how to cut back the amount of silver used in solar panels. I know, I forget if I'm pretty sure it's solar panels. They use something like 58 grams of silver per panel, but they're trying to cut it down to like 28 grams, something along those lines. Also, I remember reading a story a year or two ago. Scientists learned how to make silver 40% stronger without losing any electrical conductivity. See, you can see that as we advance and as people realize the importance of silver, there is going to be new discoveries. We are going to learn how to cut back the amount used, but it's still not going to be enough when you're looking at the bigger picture to make a difference. So, as the price of silver and other metals has come down over the past few years, miners have drastically pulled back their development spending. And that's a scary thought. They're chasing the dollar. Why would you try to dig up silver when gold is 80 times more valuable from a 1-to-1 ratio? You could look for an ounce of gold, which is 1,500, or you could look for an ounce of silver that's $20. Which one would you look for if you're trying to pay the bills? This represents the bottom of a cycle that gets repeated every 10 years without fail. A mining boom causes production to increase and prices to come down, which leads to cuts in development spending. Existing mines are tapped out and fewer new mines are developed, leading to a steep drop in mine production, which leads to surging prices. Not only is the total supply of silver in question, but the sources of mining supply are not nearly as stable as you might think. More than 80% of the world's mining supply of silver comes from just 9 countries. 7 are which considered less developed emerging markets. Mexico, Peru, China, Chile, Australia, right? These 5. And the scariest part is Mexico and Peru got hit extremely hard from the virus. So you could see how big of a dent that put in silver production last year. Most of these countries, especially in Latin America, have been slammed by falling currency values and plunging oil prices over the last year. And this was before, the virus came out. So this article is spot on. But if they only knew what was to come, oh man. Now, there's also an interesting correlation between silver demand and the price. And you could see when silver demand rises, the price rises. When demand falls, the price falls. Look, here's a silver supply and demand balance, and here's a silver price per ounce. When demand rises, the price rises. When demand falls, the price falls. And it's very interesting to look at. And this isn't as identical because it's silver supply and demand balance. But if you look at a chart when demand is almost identical to supply or to the price. And we know that demand is going to be rising over the next 10 years, literally. I mean, that's a fact. That means we can guarantee that the price is going to rise as well because the price rises with demand almost to an identical extent. Now, this is an interesting chart as well. Let's look at this. This is the silver shortage by 2020. So, since we know that 2020 has happened already, we can look at how accurate they are. So, the global silver market could be facing a deficit of 126 million ounces by the year 2020. That deficit will have to be filled somehow. Demand for silver in industrial production is not going to slow down, but will look to fill its demand from only available sources besides mining, which is investors. Right? Producers turn into consumers, consumers turn into producers. The growing problem of scarcity will send silver prices surging to convince investors to sell their holdings to industrial users, right? Producers turn into consumers. People like you and I that want the silver will be selling it to the people that need the silver. Let me tell you something real quick though. And this article didn't mention it, and nobody could have thought about this just because how unique of a situation this was, but it did happen. Now, there was a lot of people that predicted $50 silver at the end of last year. Bank of America, a lot of different people. I'm talking about a lot of different people. Saxo Bank, Dutch Bank, Goldman Sachs, even the Silver Institute, all predicted $50 silver. 30 or it was around $35 to $50 silver by the end of the year of last year. They were right. Wait, Silver Slayer, spot price wasn't $50 last at the end of last year. They weren't right. Yes, they were. Go online and try to buy a physical ounce of silver. Tell me how much you pay for it. You have to pay around $45, $50. Huh. So why would spot price be relevant if we don't go by spot price? If someone was to walk up to me on the street and say, hey, how much did you pay for that 1 ounce coin? And I said around $45. Oh, but spot price is 24. In that guy's head, what would the price of that silver coin be? What would an ounce of silver be, in his opinion? How much I paid for it. Spot price is detached from the actual price. Spot price is irrelevant. Spot price is just a digit on a screen, but if it has nothing to do with how much we have to pay, then why is it relevant? Right? A lot of people were right. To buy silver, it is $40, $45, $50. And that's because it's scarce. So like this article said, low supply or the silver shortage is going to push silver up, and it did. But since people are so fixated on spot price, they don't even realize that silver is around $50 today. Go on Amazon and type in 1 ounce American Eagles. People are buying and paying $50 for an American Eagle, and they're selling like hotcakes on there. I'm not even kidding. I made an entire video on it. This is the reality we live in nowadays. It's scary. Now, anyways, let's wrap this up right here. So, I want to go into this last paragraph. So, the silver shortage will affect nearly every aspect of your life, causing shortages and higher prices in home goods, medicine, and industrial products. But also, it literally is going to cause the earth to destroy itself. I mean, the Green New Deal is supposed to save the world, literally. Solar panels, right? Global warming, that's supposed to save the world, literally. But silver is going to be the reason we can't go through with the Green New Deal. We can't produce electric vehicles, zero net emissions by the year, whatever, 2030, whatever. None of that's possible unless we find a new way to get more silver. So, like they said, it's going to affect nearly every aspect of your life. The only way to protect yourself and even benefit from the coming crisis will be to add silver to your portfolio. As the silver crisis develops, holding the metal will evolve from an investment to a necessity to protection against runaway prices and uncertainty. And it's crazy because this was written before any uh, virus happened, right? Look when this was written, 2016, and people were still talking about the severity of silver. That's what I tell people. Even if this situation didn't happen, I would still be sitting here telling you to buy silver. But since it did happen, it just sped things up times 10. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this video up here. The link will be in the description. Make sure to go check out the Silver Stacking podcast. Go subscribe. The first 1,000 subscribers are going to win some silver. You don't want to miss out. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to hit the like button. Please leave a comment, especially if you tuned in this far into the video. I appreciate you for watching. Pat yourself on the back. Most people clicked off way sooner thinking they know it all. And I would really appreciate it if you did do that to help the video grow, because people need to hear this. Thanks for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.